So our next session then is going back to specific Wave 2 release improvements. Kim has put together some information for us related to a lot of the admin improvements. There was such a big group of these that we felt it deserved its own session. So we'll hear from Kim next on administration improvements in the next Wave release. And for anybody who's wondering, we are going to take a break. So we'll have about a 15-minute break so everybody can stand up and stretch and get a drink and do whatever you need to do after the session before we continue on with the rest of the afternoon.
Let's talk about some administration improvements in Wave 2, and we'll just talk about administration in general. I think this is kind of a hard area to keep track of just because sometimes the administration improvements are kind of all over. Sometimes some of the features that are new require an administrator to actually turn on. So one of the things I like to do as an admin is actually make sure there's some areas I check. So we'll go through those because not everything is in the release notes. So it's kind of good to check a couple of different areas and see what's been added. First of all, I went through the release notes, picked out some of the improvements that have been added in this Wave 2. And then we'll kind of also talk about just some things that maybe were added in past waves that you may want to make sure that you're taking advantage of. In this wave, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. So one, the 5-month update periods for major releases. That's kind of a nice one to extend that period a little bit longer. I know, especially with the last couple releases, I've pushed our production release to much further from the actual start date. So one of the major improvements is the 5-month update periods for major releases. This is nice that there's a longer time period you have to actually put the update in. I know in the past with a couple of the major releases, there's been some problems, so it's taken longer to kind of get that rolled out to the masses. But as a general rule, I always update my sandboxes first. And then once I'm sure everything's kind of working, none of my extensions are broken, then I'll update my production environment. But even then I push it out. I don't update it the first day it's available, and for a very good reason. So we've seen that in the last couple of updates. There's been some things that have broken, and then there's quickly a hotfix to fix it. Auto apply templates when synchronizing with Dataverse. So this is nice if you're using Dataverse and you're using that as your storage repository for Power BI reports, that you're using that as your data backend. You can now auto apply templates when you're doing some of that synchronization. So it allows you to do some filtering and other things with the data as it goes in there. There are multiple Shopify integration improvements in this one. There's a whole list that we'll go through. So, it seems like over the last couple of releases, Microsoft has been focusing on that area because there are a lot of people using Business Central that are also using Shopify. So there's multiple integration improvements there. And then this one for me was a big one. Allow more than one user to post warehouse entries at a time. That's kind of huge, especially if you have a big warehouse with a lot of different users that are in the system. One of the other ones too that's kind of nice is the new embedded Power BI reports. So there's 14 new finance reports, 12 sales reports, 13 purchasing, 7 inventory manufacturing, there's 11 in projects, there's 6. I also want to call out there are new financial reports in there as well. So they're adding a lot of new reports and a lot of new ways for you to look at the data. Other exciting admin improvements that are coming are we can change the data search method in lists, and that means you're going to have the option to use the legacy search or the new modern search. The legacy search, the difference is it's searched across all columns. The new modern search is going to search across columns that are optimized for the full text search matching. So it's going to be faster. That's not available for all tables yet, but it will be, hopefully. And then just know too, if your partners have added some tables, they can also optimize their tables in order to use the faster search. The next thing that's coming is you can get external notifications when job queue entries fail. This one's kind of cool because you can turn it on and then it's going to walk you through creating an automated flow for the notification, and that's going to use Power Automate. So it actually, inside of Business Central, you're going to go turn on the notifications. Then if you choose to automate the process, it'll walk you through and take you out to Power Automate, where you'll see a template you can use, and it kind of walks you through filling that out so that then when there is a failure, it will send you an email so that you know. So that's a pretty cool thing, and I'm hoping they do more of these in some of the different areas. The other thing is you can view app compatibility with future versions in the Admin Center. I think this is a huge one, especially I know after the last couple of updates, we've had some issues with apps not being compatible. I know someone that works on a support desk, and I think after the Wave 2 release, it broke, or one of the minor releases, I can't remember which, but it broke quite a few of the apps that they had. Also, Copilot and AI, there were quite a few improvements listed under Copilot and AI. A couple of them that are just kind of cool that I want to call out. The chat with Copilot to learn how to use installed apps. That's pretty cool. That way you can get help with their apps right inside of Business Central rather than have to go to the website, so that's pretty nice. Enhancements to chat with Copilot and the analysis assist with Copilot. So those things I think they're going to continue to improve upon with each release. So I think that's just going to be a bullet point and something to look for in each release. Also, don't forget to check other Microsoft products for Copilot improvements as well. One of the experiments I did, and I've done it kind of a couple times to see how good it's getting, is I went into Word and I asked Copilot to create a work instruction for how to do a journal entry. What came back was pretty close. I mean, obviously it's not going to have everything in it. My prompt was pretty generic. I could have made my prompt more specific. But what came back was really a document that I could use that was probably, or I should say more somebody else on my team in the finance area could use, where it was probably about 85%, 80 to 85% correct. And then they just need to add some detail in a couple of areas. And like I said, if I had continued to prompt it, I probably could have got it that state. But it's kind of cool. I mean, I went through, read it through, and it was pretty good. Just remember to check some of those things, especially if you are looking to create work instructions, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. Now there's no excuse, because if you go into Word, you can get pretty generic document and then tweak it for what you need for your business. Let's go through the Shopify ones real quick. Some of the main ones for Shopify, you can add an item as a Shopify variant. You can find shipping information for Shopify shipping fees. Wow, that's a lot of S's in there. Enable locations in Shopify refunds, export posted sales invoices to Shopify, import, export product info using Shopify meta fields, reconcile payment transactions in Shopify with the invoices, synchronize product translations to Shopify, use specific prices and discounts, synchronizing prices and discounts, synchronizing prices in Shopify. So one of the things and one of the areas that I like to check as well when I'm looking at what's new and what are the areas I need to focus on as an administrator inside of BC is if you just go to the search menu, you type in admin, you can see there's a whole list of things for you to look at and places to go to administer certain things. One of the big call outs here is the data administration. I think that's one of the underused areas of the system. I don't see too many people using that. It can be a really useful tool in managing your data. So we'll take a quick look at that at the end of this. One of the pages I want to talk about is the Copilot and AI capabilities. There is a page where you can actually administer this. So when you look at the page, you can see there's production ready previews. So all of these would be in preview. So chat, analyze list, number series, e-document, matching, sales line suggestions, create product information. You can go to this page as an administrator and you can activate or deactivate features as needed. One of the other things that you'll see on this page is you'll see generally available Copilot. What you'll see under there is marketing text and bank recs. Now let's talk about feature management. So on this page, we can turn on features or turn them off for users. And a lot of times when the new features come out, you may have to come in here and turn things on and off. So an example in this wave would be the 1099 forms. So you do have to come in here and turn it on for all users, or don't turn it on if you're not ready to use it. So you can see here there's quite a few that have come out in the different waves, let's talk a little bit about data administration. The data administration page is a place where you can go and really manage and see the amount of data that you have and where it's at. So you can see the table sizes, you can see the number of records, you can see sizes. So before we used to be able to look in the back end and see it in SQL. Now we can come here and see it in a nice user interface where we can interact with it and actually do things with it. From here we can, well, we'll look at this in the example, but we can go into here, we can archive sales quotes, sales orders, all of those types of documents that sit out there for a long time and can sometimes be problematic to manage. This is the feature management page. Here you can see it's got the list of features that we can enable, and you can see that you can turn it on for all users, or you can turn it off too if you want. But here you can see the 1099 one is in here. You can see that there's also some other things. Autosave with every field change, new sales pricing experience. All of those are things that you can turn on for the different users. The other nice thing about this is you can learn more. So you can click on this. It's going to take you to a Microsoft Learn article to learn more about the feature. Now let's take a look at data administration. So here you can see we have the data administration page open. You may have to, when you come into this the first time, this may be blank. Here you can see we have the data administration table. So when you come in here, this may be blank the first time, so you may have to refresh it. To do that, you just come up here and refresh. Then you'll see a list of all your table names. You'll see your company sizes, your total usage of space, so you can see all of those things. And then one of the really cool things you can do from here is you can do a lot of different things to clean up your data. So you can delete expired sales quotes. That's a huge help to have that expiration date on sales quotes. Then invoice documents. So here we can delete sales orders that are maybe hanging out there, sales returns, purchase orders, all of those types of things. Also under marketing, if you do a lot of campaigns or login segments or opportunities, you can also delete those as well. So it's a great way to clean up your data and not have to look at lists with lots of old entries in there. And then there's just a miscellaneous physical inventory ledgers. If you're doing a lot of physical inventories, it'll clean that up as well. The other thing that's available in here is data compression. This is one I always do with a little caution. I would say definitely try this out in a sandbox. It's going to compress entries down to summary entries. You won't see all the detail. You might just see a summary entry for that month or week or however you want to do that. This, I would say, if you're brand new to BC, I don't know that you need to use this for a couple years. But the data cleanup, I would definitely say that's one of the ones you want to look at, and especially for those sales orders and purchase orders. I can't tell you the number of people's databases we go into and we see sales orders still sitting out there from 5 years ago, just because maybe there was something that didn't get shipped and it never just got cleaned up. The other thing that's nice in here is there's a data administration guide. This can help you set up how you want to look at your data and clean up your data. So it's got a nice little wizard that you can walk through, and it'll guide you through how to set that up. The other area that I like to pay attention to as well is just under the settings tab here. You'll see that some things come in here, and you can see now there's a nice link to feature management for you. There's some advanced settings you can get to, and then there's the admin center. And I do like to use the admin center. One of the things that I like under there is I just like to go in and see if there's anything new that's been added. So here, when you look at the different settings that we have here, you can see the normal boxes that are there. I'm not sure when this one popped in, but that's been there for a little bit. I always go and check and see if there's anything new here. There is a new field that's added with the partner access. So now there is the ability to modify who has partner access to your tenants. So you can see that is a new field that's been added as of this wave, or maybe the wave before. It was one of those two. I will say also under the settings menu, one of the things that is good for an admin to know about is this page scripting. I know as an admin, I definitely would encourage my users to use this to set up some tests that they can do, some automated tests. So this is an easy way for them to script a process and be able to test it, like adding a new customer, adding a new vendor. This is kind of a useful thing. It's still in preview. It's not perfect. There's a couple of things I'd like to be able to do better, but it's one of those areas you might want to check out. Overall, there's a nice set of improvements for the admin area. There's some other more technical improvements as well, so I would encourage you to go out and just read through those. And as always, try a lot of those out in Sandbox first if you can, and just make sure you understand how they work and how they function.
Wow, that is a lot of stuff. That's the first time that I've seen that presentation actually. And obviously I was not paying attention when I reviewed administration changes in the new release, because I think in particular some of the data management stuff, that's really cool. Just the ability to be able to filter that down and do some of that cleanup. I can't tell you how many sessions I've given on data cleansing and that kind of stuff where, how do we advise people to clean up that stuff and keep their lists as a working list and don't let the garbage accumulate in there? That was one of my favorites out of there, but there's way more there than I paid attention to the first time around, Kim. So it's a good thing you did that session.
Yeah, there's really a lot there. It's kind of crazy.
Dennis says you need to teach an admin class on this for us. I absolutely agree. So I think
mean,
we've done
it's kind of hard though, because like you have to pick through it, and it's like, well, this is something an admin would need to know, but it's not necessarily listed under admin. So, I think we all kind of have our own ideas of, well, this should be admin job or this shouldn't. So I don't know. I kind of go through and pick through them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those kind of find roles where if you're in admin, you kind of have to know how to do everything or at least know how to solve hard things.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, but I definitely like some of the tools that we're getting to help us with that. So, any questions from folks about what you saw in the admin improvements in the new release? Well, I really got a good review of some of the admin stuff that was out there. So I think some of those are great. And there's definitely a few recommendations I'll start sprinkling in when I meet with clients, because those things have definitely not always been there. I always love to share the new stuff with people.